Down here, from all the pain that we go through, we know that you're real, so can you fall through? Father, have mercy when we call on you. But I just want to call on you. So the coach you ain't there to play with. I wish the jury go to sex station. Yeah. Forward. You're going to play forward. Go ahead. Alright. Look, I keep it on to the T. U.P.K. play for kings. Ain't shit sweet. Got soldiers on deck and my youngin' did a sweep. This a whole nother way, boy. Tell them get the fuck off the beach, boy. I'm in the field with the cleats. Ain't one of us here preach. They come through all black gully jack, man. All them niggas go retreat. Come through all black gully jack, man. All them niggas go retreat. I'm in the field with the cleats. Ain't one of us here preach. Come through all black gully jack, man. All them niggas go retreat, boy. This shit is sweet. I'm on gold, but they don't believe it. You know I'm winning with the team. Screaming, Vinny, beach. Bloody murder. I'm about to close the curtain. On my grind, bitch, I'm working. Sorry, all them lies, they ain't working. Them niggas weak, they can touch you. I'm a West nigga, that's for certain. They cross the line, I'm gonna back up, and I'ma hit his ass with his life. And I come through 300 strong, 140. But when niggas weak, in this bitch with the ice, this bitch that all y'all do sweet. Tell y'all to do sweet. The nigga made the wrong move, we make his ass out the lead. Ain't one of us hit the lead. Ain't one of us here. Go through all black gully jack, man, all the niggas go retreat. I keep it on to the T. U.P.K. play for keeps. Ain't shit sweet. Got soldiers on deck and my youngin' did a sweep. Tell them get the fuck off the beach. I'm in the field with the cleats. Ain't one of us here preach. They come through all black gully jack, man. All them niggas go retreat. Come through all black gully jack, man. All them niggas go retreat. I'm in the field with the cleats. Ain't one of us here preach. Come through all black gully jack, man. All them niggas go. This look that's on my face, bitch, I'm for real with it. I hit the street, put on my clips, was in the field with it. You saw this cotton just an after Uncle Phil with it. And then my target's on the move, but I can still hit it. Hey, I speak true cause it's necessary. Gullah Jack revolutionary. Cold Lord January. Commander General is a visionary. Soul food, no sweets. Your preacher man, he's sweet. Matter of fact, he weak. It's 4 time for people. Think you hard, nigga, you ain't. But with us, nigga, you can't. You smart cars, we takes. We form up, feel right. We body bad, this rap shit. All black, no white shit. Real life, no cap, bitch. Fall on, that's cap shit. I can't on to the team. U.P.K. play for keeps. Ain't shit sweet. Got soldiers on deck and my youngin' did a sweep. This a whole nother way. Tell them get the fuck off the beach. I'm in the field with the cleats. Ain't one of us here preach. They come through all black gully jack, man. All them niggas go retreat. Come through all black gully jack, man. All them niggas go retreat. I'm in the field with the cleats. Ain't one of us here preach. Come through all black gully jack, man. All them niggas go retreat, boy. Yeah. Forward. You're going to play forward. Go ahead. Alright. Look, I keep it on to the T. U.P.K. play for kings. Ain't shit sweet. Got soldiers on deck and my youngin' did a sweep. This a whole nother way, boy. Tell them get the fuck off the beach, boy. I'm in the field with the cleats. Ain't one of us here preach. They come through all black gully jack, man. All them niggas go retreat. Come through all black gully jack, man. All them niggas go retreat. I'm in the field with the cleats. Ain't one of us here preach. Come through all black gully jack, man. All them niggas. This shit is too weak. I'm gonna go, but they don't believe it. You know I'm winning with the team. Screaming, Vinny, beach. Then them devils screaming out bloody murder. I'm about to close the curtain. On my grind, bitch, I'm working. Sorry, all them lies, they ain't working. The niggas weak, they the church. I'm a West nigga, that's for certain. They cross the line, I'm gonna back up, and I'ma hit his ass with his Bible. And I come through 300 strong. Oh, my niggas, we eat. Man, this bitch with the ISUPK. That all y'all do sweet. Tell y'all to do sweet. The nigga made the wrong move when he make his ass out the league. He ain't one of us hit the league. He ain't one of us here free. Go through all black gully jack, man. All the niggas go retreat. I keep it low to the T. UPK play for keeps. Ain't shit sweet. Got soldiers on deck. And my youngin' did it sweet. This a whole nother way. Tell them get the fuck off the beach. I'm in the field with the cleats. Ain't one of us here breach. They're gon' do all black gully jack, man. All them niggas go retreat. Gon' do all black gully jack, man. All them niggas go retreat. I'm in the field with the cleats. Ain't one of us here breach. Gon' do all black gully jack, man. All them niggas go retreat. You see this look that's on my face, bitch, I'm for real with it. I hit the streets, put on my bitch, was in the field with it. You saw this cotton just an actor, Uncle Phil with it. And then my target's on the move, but I can still hit it. Hey, I speak true cause it's necessary. Color Jack revolutionary. Cold on them like January. Commander General is a visionary. Soul food, no sweets. Your preacher man, he's sweet. Matter of fact, he weak. It's 4 time for peace. Think you hard, nigga, you ain't. But with us, nigga, you can't. You smart cars, we takes. We form up, feel right. We body bad, this rap shit. All black, no bright shit. Real life, no cap, bitch. Fall on, that's cap shit. I keep it on to the T. UPK play for keeps. Ain't shit sweet. Got soldiers on the deck. And my youngest did it sweet. This a whole double way.
Yeah, Shalom Israel.
Yes, shalom.
We are the I.S.U.P.K out of 1 West, 125th Street, SHALAM, New York, under Commandant GEN.YAHANNA. We've been teaching the truth about the Bible since 1969, that blacks, Hispanics, and Native Indians are the lost 12 tribes of the nation of Israel. Right? Before we get into the class tonight, I will just go over the class schedules. Right? On a Monday, right, which is tonight, is the Monday night history class. This class is usually done by Priest and Officer Maka Kobal. I am Priest and Officer Mike. I'll be holding on the class on behalf of him tonight. On a Tuesday is the Brotherhood class, right, which is done by Priest and Officer I.S.U.P.K, right. On a Wednesday is the Law class, which is done by Priest and Officer Matt Kwayak. On a Thursday, we do not have any classes locally here in Trinidad, but from time to time we do stream the classes straight out of Harlem, New York with 12 Shield General Mahaiman. On a Friday is the Lashawan Kwadash, right? This class is done by Priest and Officer Yakad, right? The Lashawan Kwadash is is where we learn to read, write, and speak Hebrew, right? Hebrew is the native tongue of the Black, Hispanic, and Native Indian man, right? Right? On a Saturday is the Sabbath service, right? The Sabbath service is done by Priest and Officer Yakad and Priest and Officer I.S.U.P.K. From time to time, you may see other brothers conduct the Sabbath service as well. On a Sunday is our scripture breakdown class, right? The scripture breakdown class is a highly interactive class where you could tune in, you could ask your questions, any question that you have about the Bible. This class is done by Priest and Officer Galawan. Priest and Officer Galawan is the head of the Trinidad and Tobago camp locally here in Trinidad, right? All these classes, right, run from 6 to 8, right? We started a little bit late today. Right, we, as our camp leader, Officer Galawan, radio show earlier today, right, on 91.9, right, himself and Priest and Officer Tazwa, right, held it down on the radio show today, right. So we're gonna get into the class. All the classes run usually from 6 to 8, right, during the week, and on a Saturday, right, the Sabbath a.m. to 12 noon, and on a Sunday, right, it runs from 12 noon to 2 p.m., right? All these times may be updated, so tune in to our social media platforms like the YouTube and the Facebook, Twitter and Instagram, right? So that when the times are updated, you may know when the classes would be starting. The times may vary due to the scheduling of the curfew and state of emergency and things like that locally here in Trinidad, right? So just stay tuned to the social media platforms and you will be informed, all right? Don't forget to like the Facebook page, like our YouTube page. Don't forget to press the bell icon so you can be notified whenever I.S.U.P.K Trinidad and Tobago has a live class going on, right? And that basically covers all the classes during the week, right? So we're gonna get right into the class tonight, right? So we're gonna stay right on topic, right? You'll give me whole from my Babakusha, whole Romans chapter 4 and verse 15, Babakusha. Chapter 15 and verse 4, Babakusha. Right? Tonight we're gonna get right into it as the topic says, right? Right? The slaves you read about in the Bible, right, are the chosen people of the Most High, right? And this is something that the world does not tell us, right? The media does not tell us that, right? The churches we go to, all these religious institutions do not tell us that, right? The schools, right? Our education system has failed, right, to tell us, right, that the Black, Hispanic, and Native Indians, right, are the 12 lost tribes of the nation of Israel, right? And this can be proven in the Bible, right? So we're gonna get right into it, right? Give me Romans chapter 15 and verse 4, Babakusha.
Romans chapter 15 and verse 4. For whatsoever thing was written aforetime were written for our learning.
Right, so it say the things written aforetime, the things written in the past, right? Things written in history was written for our learning, right? And when we look back in the records of our forefathers, right, written in the King James 1611 Bible, right, we're going to see that the Israelites, right, who were God's chosen people, is the Blacks, Hispanics, and Native Indians, right? We are God's chosen people, right? Continue.
That we, through patience and comfort of the scriptures, might have hope.
Right, and through the scriptures, we're gonna have hope, right? Because we're gonna understand who is the true Jews, even though the Jews in Israel now white, and understand the Jewish people, I should say, in Israel white and claiming to be the true Jews of the Bible, they are not the true Jews of the Bible, right? Because through the scripture now we could have hope, we could understand, right, that the Black, Hispanic, and Native Indian man are the true Jews, right? And the Black, Hispanic, and Native Indian man could now understand his culture, right? He can understand his constitution, his law, right, and the things that he needs to do to bring back himself in rightful standing with the Most High, right? From the Babakusha, jump from it to Deuteronomy 27 and verse 1, Babakusha.
Deuteronomy chapter 27 and verse 1.
Go ahead.
And Moses with the elders of Israel.
Right, so it says Moses with the elders of Israel. So way back in the book of Deuteronomy, right, in chapter 27, Moses and all the elders in Israel, go ahead,
commanded the people, saying, keep all the commandments which I command you this day.
Right, so Moses, right, with the elders of Israel, commanded the whole nation of Israel, which is the Black man, the Hispanic man, and the Native Indian man, right, to keep the commandments of the Lord, to keep the laws, the constitution of the Lord.
Verse 2. And it shall be on the day when you shall pass over Jordan unto the land which the Lord thy power giveth thee, that thou shalt see thee up great stones and plaster them with plaster.
Continue.
Verse 3. And thou shalt write upon them all the words of this law, when thou art passed over, that thou mayest go in unto the land which the Lord thy power giveth thee, a land that floweth with milk and honey, as the Lord power of thy fathers had promised thee.
That's right, right? So when we go into this new land, right, that the Lord set us for us on the earth, which is Israel. When we were supposed to go in Israel, we were supposed to carry these laws, these constitutions, Salakia, wherever we go, right? We were supposed to be carrying this constitution, right? We're not supposed to be following the constitution or the laws of all these other nations, right? We had our own laws, our own culture, our own economic system, our own military system, our own ranking system, right? We had all our laws intact and an entire constitution that would support an entire nation, right? So the Most High give us the ability to run our own nation, right? Jump for me, give me Deuteronomy 28 and 1, Babakusha.
Deuteronomy chapter 28 and verse 1. And it shall come to pass, if thou shalt hearken diligently unto the voice of the Lord thy power.
Right, so the Most High say, if we listen diligently and apply these laws, right, that he has given us to go into this new land he has given us, right? Go ahead.
To observe and do all his commandments.
Right, so if we obey to observe and to do all the commandments that he gave us, go ahead.
Which I command thee this day, that the Most High thy power will set thee on high above all the nations of the earth. Right,
and the Most High say he would set this nation if we apply this constitution, set up our nation the way how God say that we should set it up, right? That he would set this nation above every other nation on the face of the earth. He would set us on high, right? Jump to Deuteronomy chapter 28 and verse 15, Babakusha. All right.
Deuteronomy chapter 28 and verse 15. But it shall come to pass.
Right, but he said, but it shall come to pass, right? So, so now this is the other side of it. One side saying, if we apply, right, and the constitution of the Most High and follow the things and set up the nation, he said to set it, the way he said to set it up, right, we would be high, right, above all the other nations on the earth, right? But Deuteronomy verse 15 now is giving you the other side, right? So continue.
If thou wilt not hearken unto the voice of the Lord thy power, to observe and do all his commandments and his statutes, which I command thee this day, that all these curses shall come upon thee and overtake thee.
Right. And the other side is, if we did not apply these laws and that the Most High set in place for the nation of Israel, that the Most High set in place for the black, the Hispanic, and the Native Indian man, right? If we did not apply these laws, he said these curses, right, would come upon us and overtake us. And when it says curses, right, it doesn't mean something spooky or mysterious is going to happen to us, right? The curses simply means punishments, right? So different type of punishments would come upon the black, the Hispanic, and the Native Indian man, right? Continue, Babakusha.
Verse 16. Deuteronomy chapter 28 and verse 16.
Right, they say, curse shall thou be in the city, go ahead.
And curse shall thou be in the field.
Right, and curse shall thou be in the, or if we all up in the countryside, right, wherever we may be, right, these punishments will come upon us, right? The good punishments will come upon the black, the Hispanic, and the Native Indian man. When you look around today, the black, the Hispanic, and the Native Indian man today is suffering all different type of punishments, right? From poverty to disease, right? The diabetes, HIV, you understand? Single parent homes, right? We are the worst type of education that we could possibly get on the face of the earth. And understand, we're drinking the worst water, and understand, especially here in Trinidad, you understand, because it reached to the point now where you can't even drink the water that the government provided. First, it's bad. You understand? Everybody now today is bottled water. You understand? Because we become totally commercialized, right? In society today, right? So things bad for the black, the Hispanic, and the Native Indian man, right? What verse did they reach, Babakusha?
I was in verse 16.
Let me just catch up with you. Right. Continue.
Verse 17. Curse shall be thy basket and thy store.
That's right. Now, understand the black, Hispanic, and Native Indian man, curse. You can't save up nothing. You have nothing to pass on to your next generation. You understand? Your bank account's empty. You understand? I just save a little bit of money, something coming to whip it away. You understand? When you look at other races, you understand that land, you understand, houses to pass on to the children, you understand, come from that have a proper culture to pass on to the children, so the children know the proper identity. Right? When you look at the black, the Hispanic, and the Native Indian man today, we don't know who he is. You understand? Some balling, there is African. You understand? Some balling, well, I'm Trinidadian because I'm born in Trinidad. You understand where I come from? Right? Some of them don't know the culture. Some of them taking on other people's culture. And understand? Some of we going over to the Muslim. And understand? Some of we turn Christians, right? And Pentecostal. And when in the beginning, none of these things, we were never none of these things. You understand? Right? We were never a part of any of these religions, right? Right? So some on their religion. Understand? And becoming Hindus. Understand? Right? Locally in Trinidad is the men have under the full East Indian weather garment that is way, right? Understand? Or you will see a Negro woman have only the full garment because you totally lost your culture. Understand? You lost your heritage, you lost your history, right? And all this, right? Cause all this caused the black, Hispanic, and Native Indian man to not to know his way, right? Not to identify his culture, right? Because we right, our forefathers, right, broke the commandments of the Most High. Understand? So now the whole nation of Israel, right, was brought into captivity, right? You go jump to verse 64, Babakasha. Deuteronomy 28 and verse 64.
Deuteronomy chapter 28 and verse 64. And the Most High shall scatter thee among all people.
Yeah, and this was one of the punishments in the book of Deuteronomy 28. If the black, Hispanic, and Native Indian man broke the laws, statutes, and commandments of the Most High, right? So read back from the top, Babakasha.
Deuteronomy chapter 28 and verse 64. And the Most High shall scatter thee among all people.
Right, so the Most High say he will scatter us among all people, meaning that he will scatter the nation of Israel, the black, Hispanic, and Native Indian man are among every race of people on the face of the earth, right? So we will end up captives in all these other nations, right? Go ahead.
From the one end of the earth, even unto the other.
Even unto the other. And as so that no part of the world you will be able to go, right? Somewhere in some crevice or some corner, you will be able to find an Israelite, right? And we know today that predominantly the majority of Israelites is in the western side of the world, right? Or the North American, the Negroes of North America, North American Indians, right? All the West Indians, right? The Venezuelans, Cubans, Haitians, right? All these nations, Jamaicans, all these nations coming down all through South America, right? The native people of this land, the descendants of the slaves, are the chosen people, are the Most High, right? Continue, Babakasha.
From the one end of the earth, even unto the other. And there thou shalt serve other gods.
Right, continue.
Which neither nor thy fathers have known.
Right, and I say there we should serve other gods, right? And that is how we come and pick up all these different religions. We come and pick up Muslim and Christian and Pentecostal, right? And Hinduism. And some are we in the Buddhism, right? Some of us are Egyptologists and Noapian, right? And Shango, right? Rastafarianism, right? So now we serving other gods. We know we fathers never know these gods, right? When you look back in the Bible, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, you never hear them talking about no Haile Selassie, right? Or talking about Egyptology, right? No way, no record. You can hear them talking about there's a Pentecostal or they belong to the Church of the Latter-day Saints. All these things, right? Right? Even in the Bible, we talk about Christian and not even talking about the type of Christian that is today. Understand? Because when he was a Christian back then, he was a true follower of Christ, meaning that he used to do the things, right, that Christ used to do. He used to follow the practices that Christ used to practice. When you look at the Christians today, they don't follow anything. Understand? No laws. Even the Christian pastor tell you that the laws done away with. So meaning that they totally separate themselves, right, from the laws that the Most High left for us on the face of the earth, right? So they are not even Christians, right? Though they may profess to be Christians, right? They are not followers of Christ. They don't apply and follow anything inside the scriptures, right? Continue, Babakasha.
Even wood and stone.
Right, and we will be even wood and stone, right? And this is a representation of the two major religions in the face of the earth, right? Billions of people, right, belong to these two religions, which is the wood represents Christianity and the stone represents Islam, right? These are the two biggest religions on the face of the earth, right? And they capture many of our people. Many of the black, the Hispanic, and the Native Indian man. Many of the black people, right? A good portion are the blacks and Muslims, even Christians, right? And when you go towards South America, right, there's Christianity. Don't Jesus right? Straight down to Peru, understand? Right? Until Brazil, erect a massive statue, understand? Right? And Bourget, the white man, understand come from? Right? And they erect it so big that every morning they get up, don't matter what part of Brazil is, they can see that. Understand? Right? Just to torture the soul of the black man. Understand? Right? These are the atrocities that we facing under our oppressor, right? And the reason why we're facing these atrocities is because we broke the laws of the Most High, right? And now the Most High had to send us in captivity, right? And even the scripture say he didn't send us into captivity to destroy we. He said he never sent we in captivity to destroy we. I'm paraphrasing here, right? But he sent me to provoke me to jealousy. You understand? Because now we're going to see that the white man in rulership. Understand? And I know how we will get provoked to jealousy is because we watching how he running the world and we find that it's ridiculous. You understand? Come from all kind of disease taken we. You understand? Come from right? All kind of new laws they're inventing. Understand? To come against the black man when you look locally down in Trinidad here, there's all kind of ticket you could get, seat belt, light, everything right up. You understand where I come from? Right? And then it had no chance. You understand where I come from? Right? They bring total oppression on the black, Hispanic, and Native Indian man. The water you drink, the food you're getting, you understand? Right? The pay again now no longer like long time. Right? Yeah, compare if a man compare pay. Right, a few years ago to now, it's two different things. Understand? Because right, they're willing, they're pushing to keep the black, Hispanic, and Native Indian man in the bottom of society. Understand? Right? Even just recently, 700 Venezuelans went back to Venezuela. Understand? Because they say Trinidad too hard. Understand? And right, because right, some of them find employment, so them stay, and others they couldn't make. Understand? So they turn back and go back to the same desolate place they just come from. Understand? First it become hard for them. Understand? Because and then when the corona kick in, right, the car pay rent, because it don't work, all the bars close, right? All the street food, because they did majority, a lot of them was employed in street food. Understand? All the arepas and fried chicken and all these street vendors, right? A lot of them was Venezuelans. And now when COVID kicked in and all these things locked down, they find no employment. You understand where I'm from? And then the government do want to hire them in the Trinidad and Tobago system, right? If they do all the paperwork, right? So you're left with nothing. You understand? You can't pay your rent, the landlord kick you out, you have no work, you're on the street. And rather than live on the street, they prefer to go back to Venezuela, which is the homeland. Understand? And that is the oppression the black, Hispanic, and Native Indian man facing. Understand? All over, right? Jamaica, Haiti, but we see what's going on in Haiti. Haiti is total uprising. Understand? Right? St. Lucia started on rise the bust the prime minister. Understand? Right? Barbados. Understand? Every nation on the face of the earth now, and they could know the Most High causing these things to happen. Understand? Because it's happening everywhere. Understand? All about, right? And the black, Hispanic, and Native Indian man had to understand that he is the chosen people of the Most High, right? But we was placed into captivity, we was placed into slavery, understand, for breaking the laws of the Most High. Understand? Right? So so automatically if you break, it come like just like a red light, you break the red light, you get a ticket. You understand? So the black man, by not following the laws, understand, end up now in a place of captivity, and understand, only because he broke it. You understand? But thank God, right? Under command of GEN.YAHANNA and the I.S.U.P.K, right? The I.S.U.P.K is the vehicle, understand, to get the black, the Hispanic, and the Native Indian man back in right standing with the Most High. Understand? Under our King Yahawashi. right? So the black Hispanic and Native Indian man could pull himself together and stand back up as a king and a priest, as how we supposed to be on the face of the earth, right? So we're just going some quick history tonight. Today is the Monday night history class, so we're going to do some quick history because a lot of people sometimes they say slavery was so far ago, one, right? And two, right? A lot of people don't understand that the Native Indians, right, belongs to the same nation as the Negro man, right, the black man, right? We are not Africans, right? Negroes are not Africans. Negroes are Israelites. Negroes belong to the chosen nation of the Most High, not the Israel we know today, right? That is full of white Jewish people who were moved there in 1948. Yeah? You could go and research this, right? The nation of Israel today was formed in 1948, right? Prior to that, it had no white people there, right? So we're going into some history, right? This is the Amerindians in Trinidad and Tobago, and this is locally right here in Trinidad and Tobago, right? It say Amerindian people existed in Trinidad, right? In Trinidad for as long as 6,000 years before the arrival of Columbus, right? And numbered at least 40,000 at the time of the Spanish settlement in 1952, right? So the Senate had a large number of Amerindian people. When they say Amerindian, we mean Native Indian people, right? This is not East Indian people, this is Native Indian people, right? All of Trinidad was populated by several tribes, being a transit point in the Caribbean network, the Amerindian trade and exchange. Amerindian tribes were referred to by various names, right? The Yahoo, the Nepoyo, the Chaima, the Waru, the Kalapuna, the Karinapogoto, the Garini, and the Aroka, right? So it had different tribes, right? But these names, right, that some of these tribes developed, some the Europeans come and call them that, right? They were not calling themselves that, right? One of the tribes, which is the Waro tribes, still, and the Nepoyo, right? Because the native people in Arima, right? They some of their people identify as coming from the Nepoyo tribe, right? And the Waru, right? Some of them identify as that also, and it also had that in the I think it's the Orinoco Delta, that the name of the river coming out of Venezuela to Trinidad, right? All these people living in that area in Venezuela is belong to the Waru tribe, right? Plenty of them in Cedros, right? Today, right? So these tribes, right, still around, alive and well, right? The descendants still around. So don't make people feel, like I say, like the Native Indians get wiped out. That's not true, right? These tribes are alive and well locally, right? Amerindian words and places survive into the present, right? And these are some of the places, right, that were named by Amerindian settlements, right? Places like Caroni, right? The Oroput rivers, the Tamana, right? And the Aripo mountains. Places such as Arima, Paria, Aruca, Cora, Tunapuna, Tacarigua, Cuva, Mocorapo, Shogonas, Carapachaima, Waiko, Mearo, and Guayaguari, right? And locally here in Trinidad, sometimes we just tend to think that like all the places like Cuva and Oroput, we tend to think as East Indian, right? Our next place is Princess Town, right? Indian walk in Princess Town. People just feel is because East Indian people live in there, it was called Indian walk, but that is not true, right? They used to call Indian walk since in the Native Indian time, right? That was the trade route, right? So all names that we hear today, that's still today, all these was because of Native Indian people, right? Flowers, cassava, and maize, and cocoa and tobacco, all these things, right? Maize is just another word for corn. That is called corn today, right? But that was a old school name, right? Cocoa and tobacco, right? All these things were produced by Native Indian people, right? Trinidad Amerindians form part of a large island to island and island to mainland trading network. The Waru of Venezuela, who still exists, were frequently visitors until only recent times, right? Right, and that was recent times until this article. But when the pandemic hit, them come over in Trinidad again with the last rush Venezuelans to Trinidad, right? The Amerindians developed the canoe, the bow and arrow, and the ajupa, right? The ajupa was a type of house, right? Like a hut, understand? And they used to build the walls out of mud and straw, right? And when you go back and watch remember the Israelite Egypt, when the Pharaoh tell them he ain't giving them no straw, and others go and find straw. That to show you how far that quality of stem. And understand they already know what to mix, right? The dirt to mix with the straw to make brick, right? And some of them you just use it to plaster a whole entire wall, right? Instead of making separate bricks. And understand, and that to show how far that quality of stem from, right? The Amerindians also give Trinidad and Tobago, right? So like, I'm gonna go back up to the top, right? Amerindian cuisine enjoyed by many Trinidadians, right? Cassava bread, right? People that still make that today. Farine is a type of whiting with some white circle ball, right? Let me see if I can pull it up way so we can see what it looks like, right? That was a popular thing. I remember school we used to make that real plenty. And that is an Amerindian invented cuisine. Right? So you have to get some pictures. Images. Right, it have different ways to make it. Right, some of them is used to make porridge and them kind of things like for children and things like babies and them like when you hear it used to come out like a cereal. All right. It are the ones locally here like how they used to make it, but it's similar. Let's see if I can see it here, but it was like a type of flour, right? Farine and BCR, right? I see the one we had locally here, right? But it's a thing that used to mix up like a cereal, right? But it's something similar to like we're seeing here, right? Something similar to this, right? Like a kind of fine type of flour, all right? So farine, right? They used to make warap barbecue wild game. You know, black people like barbecue, right? So you can see that black people call it, you understand? Barbecue, corn, pastel, coffee, cocoa, right? And they used to use shadow benny, right? What we know locally here as bandania. You understand? So you know that black people. You understand where I'm coming from? Right? And I just show you how you could trace a people by just the type of culture they have, right? The Amerindians also gave Trinidad and Tobago its first major rebellion in the name of freedom, right? The Amerindian uprising in 1699, led by Chief Hayarima, right? So when we go in Native Indian, I think that's supposed to be coming somewhere on the 21st, sometime in August. On that's our few holidays coming up. Either August or November, somewhere between there, right? But the chief Hayarima died. That was one of the first major uprising in the Amerindians in Trinidad and Tobago, right? I think we attended that with Officer Galawan, right? The leader of the Trinidad and Tobago camp, right? And they led one of the dreaded uprising for the Native Indians in Trinidad and Tobago, right? And all that showing that Native Indians was done on the land already even before the European colonizers came here, and even before slavery, right? In 1783, Trinidad Amerindians were displaced, right, from their lands to make way for the influx of French planters and African slaves, right? So that in 1783. So the Amerindians now get, and they're making it sound nice here, but basically what happened, they chased them away. You understand where I'm from, right? And when the French came in, the French come with their slaves. You understand? So now, right, the Israelites who get enslaved on the west coast in Africa, ship across to the Caribbean, and then now brought here in Trinidad due to the French and Spanish slave planters, right? They were slave owners, right? And they moved to Trinidad with the slaves. Understand? So now we end up in Trinidad in slavery as well, right? In 1759, the mission of Arima was formed, consolidated, and enlarged in 1785, and the Amerindians were to have had control of 2,000 acres of land, right? A number of tribes were pressed into Arima, right? So when they say the number of tribes were pressed into Arima, they force them. So they keep forcing them back inland, and they're going back inland until they get pressed into Arima. Mostly Nopoyo, and generically referred to as the Carib or Indo, right? They call them like Carib and Arawaks, right? But that the names the Europeans gave to them. They never used to call themselves that, right? Arima was the last mission tongue, right? Mission tongue. Parang, utilizing both Spanish and Amerindian musical instruments, emerged from the evangelizing of Amerindians. And that would get these things like parang, right? And all the different instruments that force them to become Christian. Understand? So when I listen parang now, you know they'll be singing in Spanish, but they'll always be singing about the virgin birth with Mary and these kind of things. The reason why they're singing about that is because they get converted to Christianity by the French and Spanish plantation owners, right? So they immediately now lost the culture, right? And that is why that's happening today, right? The Caribs in Arima converted, and this next part will explain it. The Caribs in Arima were converted to Catholicism, right? Were led by a titular queen. You understand? So you can see the Catholics convert them, and even when you watch today, they still get forced even today to go but they're still celebrating the Amerindian Day, even today, right? So that is to show the oppression, right, that we people under even today. You understand? From the tie the whole Amerindian culture with Catholicism. You understand? So they totally lost their culture, and now that they're celebrating Mary. You understand? Right? And toting Mary on a carriage back, right? And that show the oppression of the Black, the Hispanic, and Native Indian man, right? And histories in major towns such as Arima and Separia, right? Two large former Amerindian mission towns, right? Have given us Trinidad's oldest festival. So two of the oldest festivals come from these two towns, right? And then when they say mission towns, meaning these towns were controlled by Catholics, right? At one point in time, and Amerindians used to live there. So now two festivals come out, which is the Santa Rosa Festival of Arima, right? Daily Festival, we did attend, and we see how the Catholics totally destroy them. And the next one is La Divina Pastora in Separia. Catholics destroy them as well, right? And when
yes, like I said, that one the La Divina Pastora in Separia. Yeah, that would be better known as the Separia Fest.
Right.
We start the call and continue as a rightly say.
That's right. You understand? So you see how they totally destroy a culture, right? And they make it something totally different today when it wasn't that. You understand where I come from, right? And all them thing, right, is the destruction of Native Indian people, right? Because you make them lost the culture and the heritage, right? And lost the connection, right, with the nation of Israel, right? The Santa Rosa Carib community is the last remaining organized group of people identifying with an Amerindian identity and way of life, right? At least 12,000 people in Northeast Trinidad are of Amerindian descent, right? So that would have counted by like an average amount of people in Trinidad who identify as Native Indian today in Trinidad, right? And that to show you how a whole tribe of people get destroyed, you understand, by the Roman Catholic, right? And this is really the problem that's coming now, right? So when we read about back in Deuteronomy 28 and verse 64, when I say we our father never know, right? The Amerindians never know about Catholicism, right? The forefathers never known about Catholicism. Understand? And today, the descendants, right, their children are forced to be Catholics. Understand? And then when you now unknowingly go and become a Catholic now, right? You now supporting the oppression of your own people. You understand? Because it's they who enslave, right? Because I have other articles which show that the Roman Catholic Church enslaved people and force them to be Catholic, force them to be Christian, and all these different religions, right? So me now thinking, well, I just go and join and be a Catholic. No, you understand? These people oppress your people, right? And that is why history is important. That's why I.S.U.P.K under command GEN.YAHANNA have a history class, so you can know and understand who really is the enemy. You understand? Because we just watch one another as we the enemy, but really and truly, all these people holding high power, the white man today, right, and all these other nations, them conspire. You understand? Them had the archives, them had the records, right? And they're looking at it. Understand? And the black Hispanic and Native Indian man don't know. You understand? Because they make sure he remain uneducated. They make sure he remain in a place where he can read certain books. Understand? Right? Jeremiah, one time I was in a class, right? He say slaves at the time could read because we could read architecture and build stuff and all kind of things. But one thing that didn't allow us to read was the Bible, right? Because we read the Bible, we get to understand what is we history, what is we culture. We get to understand things like the Christ black, the prophets black, and all these things. And when I get to realize that now the people they develop a backbone or spine, understand, to come back and want form a nation. And that is what commanding GEN.YAHANNA doing, right? Under our King Yahushua, right? He now building, making people know the identity and who you truly is and who we are as a people so that we could come back together, right? Because every time, if you look at all the organizations today that forming for black people, right? A lot of organizations form for black people locally here in Trinidad. But every time they always want to join up with somebody else. Understand? And if you watch the organization always failing. Understand? They always saying, but we should come together or we should join hands. And I start coming from. They went today just before I leave. I watched a program on the television, right, talking about the struggles black people face and different and things like that. And they're still calling, well, we should come together with the Indians. And I start coming from, right, with the East Indians, right. But it don't work so. And I understand we had to come out on our own as our own nation. Right? That is why Black Wall Street was working. Because we came out on our own and decided to open our own banks and schools and things like that. And when they realized that Black Wall Street was thriving, they decided to totally massacre everybody and burn down all the buildings and things like that. Right? So black people, right, Hispanic people, Native Indian people, you all are of one nation of people. Different tribes, but one nation, right? We belong to the 12 tribes of the nation of Israel, right? And all these things, right, is things we need to know, right? And through the scriptures, through the Bible, right, through the I.S.U.P.K under command of GEN.YAHANNA, we able to know and understand these things, and then be able to navigate in the world, right, and become the and know our identity and understand our culture and history and know who we are as a people, right? Babakasha, you can read from give me verse 58, Deuteronomy 28 and verse 58, Babakasha.
Deuteronomy chapter 28 and verse 58. If thou wilt not observe to do all the words of this law that are written in this book, that thou mayest fear the glorious and fearful name, the Lord thy power.
Right. So if we do observe the laws in this book, this is what we Christian pastor don't tell me, right? So the scriptures say if we do observe, right, all the words of the law in this book, right, of the fearful name of the Most High Power, go to verse 59, Babakasha.
Then the Lord will make plagues wonderful, and the plagues of thy seed, even great plagues of long continuance, right, and sore and sickness of long continuance,
right. And he say he will make the Lord will make and the plagues of thy seed. So if we continue not to follow the laws in this book, right, because we are the Most High chosen people, the Most High say he will make our plagues great, right? And even the plagues are with children, right? When I say seed, it means with children. So it will continue down the generation. And as I'm going, you know, some people that say talk about the generational curse, right? Yeah, but it does make it some Christian. This is the way it is. This is a punishment from the Most High, right? And this will continue among generations. And it's simple. It's not nothing mysterious, right, or spooky, right? It's just like this. If your grandfather used to smoke weed and that's a normal thing, what will happen to the son? He go start to smoke weed, understand? And then what? He children will start to smoke weed, right? And then when the grandfather did say, well, what for he, it was just a try. He just decided to try the drug. But by the time it reached down 3 generations, that's how we are life. Them thinking about Rastafarianism and this we call it here. You understand? And we grandfather used to do this, so we doing it. So now it become a religion, right? So that's how the plagues multiply and become even greater. You understand where I'm from? One person decide to be a homosexual, right? It passed on to the son become a homosexual. And now his son become a homosexual. I know his son go decide to do because my grandfather was a homosexual. He opened an organization, LGBTQ, and now hundreds and thousands of people is homosexual. So the plagues multiply and become greater. The punishment become greater for them. You understand? And that is how the black, Hispanic and Native, and that is why the black, Hispanic, and Native Indian man need to come back and follow these laws and commandments and statutes of the Most High. Because the more, right, we break the Most High laws, down the generation is becoming worse for them. You understand? Right? And the more we keep the laws now for we generation, for we children and their children, it will become better for them. Because now the pitfalls we make, them could learn from it. You understand where I'm from? And they become better. We perfecting and them even perfecting it more. And understand? Because when we are at a battle, not eating pork, shrimp, crab, and lobster, them born not eating pork, shrimp, and lobster. Them never even taste it. You understand where I'm from? That's the difference, and that's how the generation become better. You understand? And them never even know, right? We had a battle with family about celebrating Christmas and Easter. Them were born never even knowing about Christmas and Easter. You understand? And that is how the generation will become better. And that is why the black, Hispanic, and Native Indian man will need to come back and follow the laws of the Most High, right? And that is how we will become perfect as a nation, right? This is another article here, right? This article say this article referring to a question people asking, right? Which was slavery different in Trinidad, right? Because a lot of people like to push the notion that slavery wasn't so bad in Trinidad, right? Because a lot of people do go too far back in history, right? Because they like to push Trinidad as a melting pot where everybody was cool. The Chinese living good with the Syrian living good with the Negro and the Indian, and in the late 1970s, the blacks and Indos unite, right? When the fight for black people to work in the bank, you understand? And all these kind of things, right? But this is a piece of history here, right? That will disprove this, right? Here we see, as an institution, slavery in Trinidad, right, was essentially the same as the other Caribbean colonies, especially those belonging to France and Britain. Enslaved people were legal chattels who were bought and sold like any other type of property. So just so you buy a bike or a car, just so they used to buy and sell people. You understand? Right? Like nothing. Right? They're just changing hands. Whoever had the money to buy you. Right? Advertised for sale in Trinidad newspapers and listed on estate inventories along with the livestock and the equipment. So when they put you know, like how the vessel going from Trinidad and Tobago, right? What is called the cargo vessel, yeah, I think it's the cargo star, right? When they put the cargo, they listen your name, right? Just like if they listen a truck or a tractor going and load on the boat. Understand? All the other people, the French people and them going on the passenger list, but you going on the list with the cargo. Understand? They put you in the bottom of the boat. Like if it's a truck or a tractor or a bag of feed. Understand? And that show you And this was happening in Trinidad, right? And that is the oppression black people go through, right? And they just try to tell you forget about slavery, right? Which is insane. And understand, because they do black people a great injustice. Go ahead, Officer.
Yes, like you say, when you talk about that and all too, it come like they say all those doing the slaves on them. So when some of these ships and all used to come and all too, like how these ships, these men used to try to run away by going taking the gangway, because the gangway system, and go in exactly with all the goods and them is.
That's right.
And stack up and pile up themselves and squeeze up inside all them places until they reach the flee or kind of
thing. The fleet and exploit, and that is true. That is how the technique they used to use to run away. Yeah. You understand? Right? And this is what they used to do to we and force we, right? As if we is nothing. And let's say as if it's nothing, right? And for anybody condition, they will run down and try to run away. You understand? Right? That's a natural defense, right? To escape that oppression, right? Then go on here. It says slavery, right, was hereditary, inherited through the mother. So the child of an enslaved mother and a free man was born a slave, right? So don't feel you can escape. And understand, if your father was a free man or your father make you with some other nation, they still consider you a slave. You understand where I come from? So you can't escape, right? So the classifiers as slave, right? And lifelong, right? Manumission, the grant of freedom was quite rare, even in the last years of slavery, right? So let's say even for them to free a slave, that was a rare thing to happen, right? When Britain was supposedly trying to encourage it, harsh laws determined how enslaved were controlled and punished. Enslaved people had no legal respect, rights to marriage or family, and were before 1824 in Trinidad, more or less at the mercy of their owners, just short of the power of life and death. You understand? So your owner could do anything with you, he do with you. You understand? And that is sad. And this was in Trinidad. This isn't talking about outside, right? So the punishment for slavery in Trinidad was just the same as any other slave colony, right? I want to emphasize, as I have done on many occasions, that it is only a myth that slavery in Trinidad was somehow benevolent, right? Meaning that so how people that say slavery was a good thing, wasn't so bad, that is a myth. When you really go and investigate what slavery was in Trinidad, right? Than elsewhere in the Caribbean, it is true that Spain, reputation for being more humane, holding power, had a reputation for being more humane, slave holding power than Britain or France. And Trinidad was Spanish in 1797, right? Because Trinidad was under Spanish rule in 1797. But the methods of managing the enslaved which prevailed in Trinidad were those of French immigrant planters, not the Spanish, and they brought with them some brutal practices of punishment and terror, right? So they're trying to say that the Spanish was less harsh, right? But a lot of people don't know the torture the face of the Native Indians face under the Spanish, right? And them even get enslaved and sent back to Europe, right? So some of the slavery in Europe, right? Instead of in the Caribbean, right? And I know the history of slavery of the Americans, right? It's a cut open them woman belly, right? And feed the baby to alligators and burn them on the stake and all that kind of thing. And if the same, that punishment was less than what the French and the British do to show you how more evil the British and the French was. You understand? And that is how brutal that part of slavery was. You understand? Because that was like a nightmare that not ended. You understand? That was they say the black, the Hispanic, and the Native Indian man in hell, right here. And understand the feel hell somewhere under the ground. That it's under the ground. It's right here, right in the lowest state. The black, Hispanic, and Native Indian man living all over the world. All the terrible conditions that we face in, right? And this is our next part here. They say the fear of poisoning by slave Obeah men and the frightening memory of what had happened in French Saint Dominique, which is Haiti today, after 1791 were especially strong among French planters who set the tone for the new slave society that emerged in Trinidad in the 1780s, right? So the French slave masters, right, was afraid that the slave obeah, right? Because a lot of people, and that's how Trinidad people come to believe in that spooky type of what is called the had tricks up the sleeve. They used to poison people, right? And they had ways of doing it. You understand? And they had networks of people that they were like community leaders among the slaves. You understand? So they had networks of people. You understand? So if I come and tell the slave master whip somebody, and I come and tell the slave master you die tonight. You understand? And next thing you know, the slave master really dropped down and died the same night. And but it wasn't because he had some spooky spiritual thing about it or mythological thing. It's because they use poisoning. But the network's so big, they might tell a slave in the house, hey, throw something, put this in the drink. And understand? Because at that time, a lot of people don't know that black people had great understanding in herbs and medicine, right? Especially herbal medicine. It's like how had them herb doctors today, so that they know what to mix. Understand? To put in big portion, right? And cause them to drop down dead. So understand? When everybody see now, wait now, any man just say, understand, the master got dead tonight, and Tutu is dead. So they make the slave master now afraid them. Understand? Right? And that's how that spread among among a lot of colonies, right? And obeah become like if it's something spooky or mysterious, right? And I think he campaigned Officer Galawan was the talk on that on the radio today and all, because I believe I see that on the topic, right? So all these things, right, is what used to happen on the slave plantation, right? And here they say now, the British, after they took the island in 1797, right? So the British took the island from Spain, right? And the British began to rule in 1797, followed suit, right? So the British do the same thing and worse with the French and the Spanish do it, right? Severe punishments and brutal reprisal for those accused of resistance, conspiracy to rebel, or poisoning, right? Which the so-called obeah man, as they call them, used to do, right? Poisoning were meted out in the 1790s and early 1800s, right? So they used to punish them as major crimes in the colony, right? The harsh frontier of conditions endured by the slaves in decades when tropical forests were cleared by manual labor and new plantation carved out of bush. Now, this part here is people don't understand, right? A lot of people today, right, of East Indian descent just claim that the forefathers, right, in the sugar plantation, right, to plant sugar cane, right, and they work for very little money, but they get paid, but they say they work for very little money, right? This is the difference, right, with the black, the Hispanic, and the Native Indian man, right? Before they even think about the sugar cane plantation, where you could plant cane, before that is what a forest, right? And the East Indians come in 1845, right? The slaves here before that, right? How the plantation get clear enough for them to plant sugar cane? Somebody had us to cut down the forest, right? And I know what forest does be. Them massive tree, right? Without one go and get them big machinery to clip around the tree to cut it. You understand? That was done by manual labor. So them clearing a place, right, as big as Point, right? Or as big as Sando, right? Cut down all the tree, dig out all the tree stump. Okay, you know how that tree stump is to dig out, right? And then cut all the bush, right, in order so that it could become farming land, right? So that the sugar cane and the cocoa could plant, right? That's what black people used to do. You understand? And then now, them come with a happy self from India and to plant sugar cane.
Yeah.
You understand? So that does make it look. You understand? Like we work hard to know the black people get used and abused, totally destroyed. And understand? We used to clear forests, and in order for the plantation to become something. You understand? So just like when the government bring all them big backhoe and things to come and clear land, and it taking them weeks in the forest to clear the trees, they used to do that by manual labor. You understand? Go ahead.
Like I said, that one, what them is in them ready to get a garden.
That's right.
Garden is something was set up and developed and
something that already developed. You understand? And when the black Hispanic and Native Indian man, we feel the brunt type. How much are we might be dead by from snake? You understand? And all them old beasts in the bush. You understand? Trying to clear forests. You know what forest is be? What kind of black widow? You understand where I'm from? Right? Mapapi. You know, Trinidad famous for that coral snake. How much are we might be dying from that? You understand? And Mapapi and coral snake is two poisonous snake in Trinidad, and that is one of the worst deaths you could get. You understand where I come from? Because these things when the venom take it, is burn off the tissue. You understand? So although it died from the poison, the tissue does literally burn away, like melt away, like if it get burned like from acid. You understand? That's tell how dread that venom is, right? It's a man. At time I was in a program, right? What was the name of this program again? That was the Civilian Conservation Corps, right? Where they used to give military training, right? And they have some slides showing different things the military in Trinidad meet up in the bush, right? And they show you a slide where one of the military men get bite from a mapapi, right? And he did live because they had to fly him by helicopter to the hospital, right? But by the time he reached the hospital, he lost his whole foot, right? Almost up to the knee, right? Because the whole bottom of his foot totally deformed and melted away. You understand? Just by the snake bite of a macaque. And that's the how dread that is in Trinidad. You understand? And pity out back then, right? It no hospital to and no helicopter to fly to the hospital. So when you get bite, that is it for you, you're dead. You understand where I'm from? When coral snake take you dead. Coral snake is the one with that have a very small mouth. So the crab bite you in certain places. So they take you like between your fingers or your toes and things like that. Right? And when that bite you, you shut them down one time. You understand? All your organs, kidney, heart, everything want to stop. You understand? So these snakes are very venomous snakes. Are the two most venomous snakes in Trinidad. Right? So all these things, right, is really black, Hispanic, and Native Indian man go through, right, in Trinidad, right? I'm gonna go down a little more. Just way to see here, right? Let's see, right? Trinidad enslaved population declined steadily, right? Right? They say once the Atlantic trade was ended, Trinidad enslaved population declined steadily. There were about 20,000 enslaved in 1802, and by 1838, which was coming up to when the so-called Guinea slave independence, roughly the same number were emancipated, despite several of many thousands, right, from Africa up to 1807, and from the Caribbean islands thereafter. It wasn't just that enslaved death rates were high for infants, children, and adults. Birth rates were very low, and enslaved women had to labor in the fields, doing hard manual labor. They were poorly fed and often suffering from disease, so their fertility was low. Miscarriages and stillbirths have been very frequent. You understand? So the women couldn't make children because they working their body so hard, you can't properly carry a child. You understand? And having stillbirths and infertility. So barrenness started to take place, right? So the population started to fall apart. And I'd like to show you the sad life, right? And slavery to endure, and people just make us believe that nah, don't study slavery, man. That was in the past. Understand? That's ridiculousness. Slavery was just the other day, right? My grandfather, well, my grandfather now, right, today is 90, right? And his father was born in slavery. Understand? My father my father born in slavery, and my father born in slavery. He father. And understand? So that's just the other day, like 2 generations. You understand? Because them live pretty long lives. You understand? Right? So people just make you feel, right, that these things were very far away, and it had no consequence. It still has consequence even up to today, right? Black people still can recover, right?
So I guess that when you come back to the you're saying, I know too, that we have like when you check back at people calling Negroes, and then after that that are calling Creoles, so like the Creole and them was the one born into the one of them born into slavery and thing, and then after the Negroes was the ones them come on slavery and all too, and you check back all these things they're saying there. That's right. People instead of no, they don't know.
And the past that we has nothing. I guess it don't mean nothing.
Yeah.
You understand? Right? I'm gonna jump to our next little piece I wanted to read here. Right. What did this part here say here, right? It say, right? This is from Britannica, right? Britannica.com, right? Trinidad and Tobago history. From 1776, the Spanish government encouraged, right, Roman Catholics and other Caribbean islands to settle in Trinidad with their slaves. Right? I read it one more time again. It says, from 1776, the Spanish government encouraged Roman Catholics and other Caribbean islands to settle with their slaves, showing that the Roman Catholic Church had slaves, you understand, coming to settle in Trinidad. Right? So all these things what people don't know. Understand? The same people who enslave your people, you be joining that religion. Understand? And that has happened when what? Just like when we now study class, the history written before time is written for we learning. Understand? But a lot of people don't go back, they don't choose to go back in history. They'll tell you forget the past. And when they forget the past, you will go back and serve your same slave master and don't even know it. Understand? Right? Immigration. This immigration became significant after Cedula decree, right? This is a special decree in 1783, which offered generous land and tax incentives to settlers and transformed Trinidad population, economy, and society. Most of the settlers were French. And French influence became dominant, right? So when they make this decree, plenty French people coming, and there was over tax incentives, right? And they offer generous land and tax incentives. So that's why they'll come Trinidad, right? And that's why today in Trinidad, you find whether it's called, we have Trinidad white. You understand? And some of them saying that from Spain, some is French, some is British, but they're born in Trinidad because the parents were settlers from this period. You understand? So it's about a popular fella who will be on social media, right? He white, right? But when he talk, he accent is like a Trinidadian, right?
With them
That's right. You understand? And he talking just like a Trinidadian, right? Because he four parents, right, is who settled in Trinidad during slavery. So he not born and grew up in Trinidad, so he's like a Trinidadian, but his heritage is from French, some of them is from Spain, and some of them from Britain, right? And even have people from the Dutch colony, right, which is a break off of Germany, right? Calling Dutch, right? Coming from Holland and all these places, right? So a lot of people, the ancestors is from this period, this settling period in Trinidad, right? And that is why history is important. And so now you're understanding how all these different people came to be in Trinidad, right? It even had a next part of the article, but the time coming up in it. But right, but if I get time again, I will do a part 2, right? All right, let me see what I find it here. Right, look, I find a little piece here, right? I will read this little piece. It says the original Trinidadian Indian, right? So when I say the Trinidadian Indian, they're talking about, when I say the original Trinidadian Indian, talk about the native Indian here, right? So the original Trinidadian Indian inhabitants had by then virtually disappeared because all the other people who come into Trinidad started push the native Indian back inland. Some of them gone back to Venezuela, and some of them is who remain in Arima, right? because them is basically and all like Arima going up Paramin and all these places, right? Them is the last set of the original Indians in Trinidad, right? Or Native Indian people, right? And after 1838, the smaller British Caribbean colonies, right? Africa as free settlers rescued from foreign ships, Madeira, China, Syria, Lebanon, Venezuela, and United Kingdom. Trinidad population became one of the most heterogeneous in the Caribbean, meaning that after 1838, right, when the so-called declared slave independence, all these other nations come to Trinidad. Now we end up getting people like the Sabgas and the Abos, all them Syrians and Lebanese, right? There's a next community living in Trinidad, right? Basically, it does look like Syrians, but they have a type of relation. Them just intermarry with one another, right? Venezuela and United Kingdom, right? All these people, right? When I say United Kingdom, they're British, right? Come to settle in Trinidad, and that is why they have a certain sector of Trinidad that is white and Syrian and all these things. All them, some of them food store, them who sell in gyro. Some of them is Lebanese, right? And some of them is Syrian, right? And they come and settle in Trinidad. So now that is why Trinidad have this melting pot or kalalu, as we call it locally here, this mix up of all the different races in Trinidad, right? Because a lot of them move in when slavery is coming to an end. So when they're moving now, remember the black, Hispanic, and the Native Indian man, we just come out of slavery. They are nothing. You understand? And these people moving, so no wonder now they're controlling the port. Understand? And a lot of Chinese controlling all supermarkets and all these places because they already had themselves well established coming into the country. You understand? Yes, they came with less, but compared to where the black man was, it come like them that was halfway to the finish line, and we now start. You understand? So you have no chance of catching them.
So I guess our next good point you could see it and also when going back to that. When they check the parliament and thing, right?
Yeah.
They check China now, they are young,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
The Syrians, they are carrying good.
That's right.
Thing, right?
Yeah.
And then after you have the East Indians and everything like
with Kamala and Paranat and all of that. And there's a big point to bringing in because it's training now how to work the way up in the Trinidad society now and now the political power. Understand? The Syrians, the Syrians just shy away. A lot of them shy away from political power because they're afraid the ridicule of the population, but they like to stay behind the scene, like the Businessman Association. The Fisherman Association is I forget he's Abu too, but I can't remember he first name, right? Yeah. The Businessman Association is Gregory Abud, right? And next one was the Textile King and all the different people, right? Yeah. Right. You understand? So you could see now how they infiltrate the society, but they infiltrate the society in prominent position, right? So some of them controlling the port, some is clothes, some is the food industry, understand? And these different places, right? And that's just like and just like in the scripture here, let me see if I find it, right? Wait till we will go to the enemies, right? For the want of all things, right? That is Deuteronomy 28 and and 48 Babakusha, right? Right. So because all these people come and settle, right? All the during the slavery time, and this is what happened to we. Go with Deuteronomy chapter 28 and verse 48. These are curse, our punishment that fall on the black man for breaking the laws, the statutes and commandments of the Most High. Go ahead.
Deuteronomy chapter 28 and verse 48. Therefore shall thou serve thy enemies, which the Lord shall send against thee.
Right. So the people who we serving now, the Most High trying to tell you something. The Most High trying to tell you the people we serving now is the enemies, right? Go ahead.
In hunger, and in thirst, and in nakedness, and in want of all things.
The reason why we go serve them in hunger and thirst and nakedness and in want of all things because they controlling all these things in society. You understand where I'm from? When you talk about shipment on the port, right? Anything going in and out on a shipment is what? The other nations. You understand? You're talking about doing business in Port of Spain is the other nations. And I started talking about getting food in the supermarket in the other nations, right? Look at the change in Charlotte Street to Chinatown now. So when you're going to do business on Charlotte Street, who are you going to? The other nations, right? And Charlotte Street was a predominant, but it's a street predominantly with black people selling on the street, right? Because they couldn't afford the buildings to be in the buildings, but they used to sell as vendors on Charlotte Street. You would see many of the people, and now them fighting now to try to stay on Charlotte Street, but eventually we don't know they're gonna get move out, because when they turn Chinatown, it's obvious that we're not going to have Negroes selling in Chinatown. And understand, it's Chinese to be selling in Chinatown, right? And then after you have things like a whole place named after Chinatown, we can't think how gonna happen. All the Chinese festival is going to come in Trinidad. So all them dog festival and all the different things going to come in Trinidad. I know what happened, understand? Because a lot of people unaware of the laws, statutes, and commandments of the Most High. When they hold a dog festival, you're going to try. When you like when you catch yourself eating dog, you understand? Because another nation bring their culture and now influencing society, you understand, with their culture. Black and Hispanic and the Native Indian man stray away, you understand? Because we adopt some of the cultures of these other nations and left and walk away from ours, you understand? But the Most High saying that, give me Deuteronomy chapter 7 verse 6, Baba Kusha. Deuteronomy 7:6. Right? But this is what the Most High say about the black, the Hispanic, and the Native Indian man, right? We are different type of people on the face of the earth, right? We was born different on the face of the earth.
Deuteronomy chapter 7 verse 6.
Go ahead.
For thou art an holy people.
The Most High say, right? The black, Hispanic, and the Native Indian man is a holy people unto the Lord, right? Go ahead. It's a holy people, so like, yeah.
Unto the Most High thy power.
That's right. Unto the Most High. The Most High, right, is our power. That will be get strength from, right? These laws, these statutes, these commandments, this constitution written in the Bible, this is our power. Right? Go ahead.
The Most High thy power hath chosen thee to be a special people.
And the Most High chose the black, he chose the Hispanic, and he chose the Native Indian man to be a special people. Right? We're not ordinary people. We are special people. Understand? The reason why we are special people is because God chose us to be that people. God chose us to be the people in rulership on the face of the earth. And the reason why the black, the Hispanic, and Native Indian man in the bottom of society struggling, trying to make it in a 9-to-5 and a hustle is because why? We walk away from the laws, statutes, and commandments of the Lord. And understand? Our Christian leaders, religious leaders failed. Understand? Right? They allow the gates to become languish, right? Right? They allow the hedge or the fence for the black, Hispanic, and Native Indian man, the leadership fail, and cause the black, the Hispanic, and Native Indian man to go astray. Right? Continue, Baba Kusha.
Unto himself above all the people upon the face of the earth.
That's right, right? And we were supposed to be a special people above all people on the face of the earth. And when I say above, we're supposed to be in rulership, in command, and understand, in saying how things are supposed to be on the earth. When the black, the Hispanic, and the Native Indian man on the face of the earth, we won't be eating pork, shrimp, crab, and lobster. And understand, because pork, right, which is or pig, a shrimp, a crab, and a lobster have a different type of job than to be food. And understand, they are the filters of the earth. And understand, when you look back at the history of a pig, even right here in Trinidad, right, people used to pack all the garbage, all the old vegetables and things in biscuit, we used to call a biscuit tin, right? A big silver tin. If you don't know it locally in Trinidad, we have a big silver tin where they used to pack biscuit in. And when it become empty, they used to use this biscuit tin as a bin for trash, and they would put all the fish guts and understand and all the skins are provisions and things like that inside this big biscuit tin. And understand all food that's sour, and understand all rice, and understand bread that gets stale and sour. They just put it in the biscuit tin and put it outside the house. And a man in the village who will be mining pigs, right? And he now will come down, right? Or when he going to carry he pigs out, he will come down and he will get trash at every house. And understand, the pig will eat everything, all the sour bread, and understand, old food, And understand all fish guts, whatever, the pig in K, the pig eating that. You understand? And that is how the place never contaminated. Because why? The pig used to come and get rid of all that was like the garbage truck. You understand? Used to come and clean up all that. You understand? And he pigs getting feed, right? And the people garbage getting rid of. You understand? But no, we started eat the pig. We started eat the garbage truck. That's why we getting sick. And that's why we getting gout and cancer and all kind of strange disease the doctor can't cure. Right? Crab, right? Crab and shrimp, right? And lobster. These things they filter for the ocean. They bottom feeders. They see the walking on the ground in the mud. So a crab that's operate. Understand? When an animal die and it a crab around, the crab will come. Lots of crab and the big pincers down, they come in and pinch out. That like a knife and fork for them. And they come in and pinch out and eat. When they're done, that dead carcass totally gone. They're going with that. Lobster is the same thing, but in the sea. Understand? So when I fish dead, understand, I started floating up and stinking up the place. Understand? Lobster feeding on that. Shrimp is bottom feeders. When fish release feces on the ocean floor, the shrimp is who eating that. And when the shrimp body process that and the shrimp excrete, it coming out as something totally different. You understand? These are things people don't know. But when we eat it, that is how we poison ourselves. That is how we get sick. You understand? We know not to eat dog. You understand? The Christians like to say bless and eat everything. But somehow Christians know not to eat human. They know that wrong. You understand? Which means they can't eat everything. You understand? Right? So the Most High set laws, things to eat, things not to eat, right? Not to be adulterer, not to be a homosexual, how to treat your neighbor. And understand? You still treat your neighbor as yourself. So the same way you will want to be treated, the same way you should treat your neighbor. And understand? If you know you don't like to be advantaged, don't advantage your neighbor. And understand where I'm from? If you know if you know you don't like to you don't like to lay a car dirty. When you borrow your neighbor car, make sure you wash it and carry it back for him. Right? And that is how the world will function righteous. But the world will only function on that level, right? On a brotherly level, only when the Black, Hispanic, and Native Indian man in rulership, because we were supposed to be the kings and priests on the earth, right? And with that, we will pass the class over to priests and Officer Shah, right? You sign this.
Security announcement. We are the I.S.U.P.K out of 125th Street, Harlem, New York, under Commanding Gen.YAHANNA. New rules for brothers and sisters. When a new brother or sister comes to the school, they are off limits for 6 months. They are here to be saluted only. They are here to shed themselves of the world. After the 6 months, if your brother or sister has an interest and peculiar person, he or she must get permission from the head to speak to another brother or sister. There's another 6 months which your brother or sister will court each other. After the 6 month period, the brother or sister will get permission from the head to marry. Tithes, which is the commandment. You can find this in Numbers chapter 18 and verse 21 and Malachi chapter 3 verse 8 to 10. Means 10 in Hebrew as wrong as my share. 10% of every penny and increase the Most High gives you, give to your charity department or teacher priest fund. Free will offering for priests, non-mandatory, whatever amount you'd like to give. A common holy convocation, that will be the memorial blowing of trumpets, the first day of the 7th month. That will be Monday, the 6th September 2021. You can find this in Leviticus chapter 23, verse 24 and 25. Mind you, to check on social media such as I.S.U.P.K, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and so on for I.S.U.P.K events and material. If your brother wants to be a trooper in the school, then he needs to start wearing all black, which includes black boots, light shirt, light pants, light headband, or scarf. That we say, Majum, Sir, on Rockfordum. You going to say the Lord Prayer in Hebrew? Abanawa, Shabashamayam, Quadash, Ayah, Shamka, Yahweh, Lakwaka, Taba'a, Atazaka, Aya, Aisha, Aratuza, Kawa, Aya, Ashimayim, Natan, Nawa, Lakam, Kal, Yawam, Wasalaknawa, Kasalaknawa, Kawatinawa, Wala'a, Tabianawa, Wanasayawan, Abal, Oshino, Mayan, Rai, Kaya, Laka, Malakwa, Ma'ala, Lapara, Aman.
What we said in the English was, Our Father, which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Yahweh, thy kingdom come, thy will be done, in earth, as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts, as we forgive our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory, forever. So be it. Sir.
Let's get a teacher one Kudisuk, Imagine Shabbat, Imagine, Barak, Yahweh Shema Shabakata.
How about some of the Shabbat?
Yadamata, Sa. Let's get the sisters online at one Kudisuk, Imagine Shabbat, Imagine, Barak, Yahweh Shema Yatamba Shema Shai, Yadamata, class dismissed.